So I'm starting the recording now because sometimes when the meeting gets going, things are happening.
You're in your offices.
Yeah.
Yeah. B is here as well. She's in our small conference room.
Oh, okay.
So
This is the coldest room in my little house. But it's where my computer is, so.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, all.
Morning, Bill.
good morning, Bill.
Yeah, it looks like you people may have clouds. I've got bright sunshine.
Yeah, it's pretty sunny here, but very cold.
It's not going to melt any snow.
Right. I drove into the office, but looks like only Jody and Melissa are here. So guess everybody decided to stay home and attend from home.
Yeah, doctor hasn't given me permission to drive, but I still kind of hang out at home.
Yeah. Well, I imagine how much snow did you get up there?
3.5 inches.
Okay.
Well, we
Not
have a-
too bad.
We have a good turnout of guests, but we do not have a good turnout of our RAC members yet. So hang on, B, for a little bit.
Okay.
I know Rosemary wasn't going to be able to come, but I haven't heard from Chris or Jen or Eric. So hopefully they're all coming on.
Eric's here.
Well, there's another Eric, believe it or not.
Hopefully he's not another Eric with a K.
Nope, he's an Eric with an ARIC. So crossing our fingers for a few more RAC members.
Right. You don't suppose they got confused by that executive committee email? If they didn't read it carefully?
Well, Jen, I wouldn't expect Jen to get confused at all, or Chris, because they know the regular RAC meetings. So
I know I had to look at it twice. Just because of the weather.
yes.
We'll wait a couple more minutes, so let people get logged in or settled in. If we don't have a quorum, we'll just go through all of our information, or we won't be able to take any votes.
Okay.
Joe's here.
Yeah.
Good morning, Joe. How are
Morning,
you?
Joe. Glad you're here.
Hi.
We need to keep counting people.
Oh, yeah, I was afraid I had myself on mute, so I thought I better fix that.
Right, right.
And we have a quorum now because Mary Cap is joined. So that's good. So we're good.
Oh, good. Mary's coming on. That's
Yep.
good.
Yep. So we are full.
Right, B, whenever you're ready, then.
Okay, well, let's call the meeting of the Regional Advisory Council of the Area Agency on Aging to order. Let's do our introductions. I'll call out your name and you can say hi. See, I'll go to our members first. Bill, do you want to say hi?
Hello,
Morning.
Bill
every-
Bowles.
good morning. I guess I'm not actually a member yet, but
Yeah, I was asking Bill Bowles to say hello.
I say good morning from sunny Park County, outside of it, Wilkerson Pass.
Okay. Joanne Ruth.
Good morning. This is Joe from my little cozy office.
All right. Kathy. I'm calling on our members first. Well, she doesn't hear me.
Well, Kathy might be Kathy Lowry
Oh,
from,
might be the
which
wrong.
sometimes might feel like a member now because she's always present.
And I am here.
Okay. All right. And our guests, let's start with Debbie.
good morning.
Debbie, we're hoping she'll be a new member through the business of the meeting today. Jody,
Good morning, all. Jody Parker here, Area Agency on Aging Director.
Kristen Edmondson,
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to do a little presentation later on Goodwill. So nice to meet you all.
wonderful. Eric Seymour,
Yeah, hello, everybody from sunny Seattle Tacoma Airport in Washington.
in Washington. Okay. Laura Cruz,
Hi, good morning. I'm the mobility coordinator for the AAA. So good morning, everybody.
Mary Cap, you want to say hi? You're on mute.
Mary Cap from El Paso County.
And Mary's one of our members. Maria Cordova,
Hi, good morning, everyone. I was hoping to be there in person today, but that didn't work out. I work at the Independence Center and I serve in El Paso County, Park and Teller counties.
wonderful. Welcome. Erica Carter,
Hi there, Erica Carter from Solar PC, Director of Community Based.
Jenny Danner,
Good morning, everyone. This is Jenny Danner, Executive Director of the Park County Senior Coalition.
welcome. Melody Dowell,
Good morning. This is Melody. I'm the Program Services and Contract Administrator for Pikes Peak AAA.
Janine,
Hi, this is Janine. I'm representing Next Day Access.
great. And Jessica,
Jessica McMullen. I'm the Policy and Communication Manager here at PPACG.
okay, did I miss anybody? Speak up, I guess. Okay, we got everyone. So welcome to our members and all of our guests. Going to take a look at our agenda. I have a couple items to add to that. We have Health Promotion Partners is going to do a short presentation and then a TRS update. But with those changes, are there any other additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none. We also have the minutes from our prior meeting, which were, the link to those were posted on the call for the meeting. Are there any additions or corrections on the minutes? Hearing none, may I have a motion from,
This is Joe Ruth. I move adoption of the minutes.
okay, is there a second?
Bill Bowles, I'll second.
Thank you. We've had a motion to approve the minutes and agenda. And a second, all those members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say nay. The agenda and minutes are approved. Are there any public comments, Jody?
No public comments were received.
Okay. All right, then we have moved to our action items today. We're very excited about the possibility of approving new members. Bill Bowles, will you tell us a bit about the members we're considering?
Well, I've, I guess, interviewed, listened to them, watched them on TV, on the screen here and talked to them. And I think we really need to expand our group, and these two would be well worth it.
Do you want to tell the other members a little bit about Debbie Lemonstanovich and Maria Elena Cordova?
Well, she represents a group that we really need to be tied into. And
Who does?
Who does?
Maria Cordova.
Okay.
And Debbie's group is one that can come up here and help us some. So I'm in favor of both of them.
What are the groups? I didn't get any minutes, so I'm not following.
Let me just read for you, for those who did not sit on the committees. I can read for you just a short paragraph summary. Maria Elena Cordova works at the Independence Center as an outreach specialist. The Independence Center serves our 3 counties, and in the past, we had a Independence Center member, but I have not had one for almost 3 years. Maria Elena is interested in helping seniors age in place. She has done projects with technology, supported people experiencing homelessness, and volunteers with trails and wilderness work. Having an Independence Center representative is helpful to bring the collaborations and information to the rec meetings and back to the Independence Center. So that's a little bit about Maria Elena Cordova. Then Debbie Lemonstanovich is a recent resident of Colorado Springs, meaning she moved here recently. She has a long history of volunteerism and working with nonprofit organizations. Debbie worked with an area agency on aging and long-term care of Eastern Washington, Spokane, Washington for many years. Her duties included program performance assessments, including desk and field monitoring of various subcontracted programs. Debbie also worked for the ARC Sunrise in Florida, a nonprofit agency that provided vocational, educational, and residential services to children and adults with developmental disabilities. And as recent as 2020, Debbie was a volunteer ombudsman where she made weekly visits to 2 30-person assisted living facilities in Albuquerque, New Mexico. we're thrilled that both Debbie and Maria are considering the RAC committee or have applied to the RAC committee. And we, as Bill said, we are recommending both for approval. Is there, the committee report from Bill is considered the motion. Is there a second to the approval of these two members?
I would like to second that motion.
Thank you very much, Mary. We have a motion on the floor to approve both Debbie Lemonstanovich and Maria Elena Cordova as members of the RAC committee. All those members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I guess I need to hear the other ones as well.
You want hands?
There we go. Hands, all right. All right. And those opposed? The motion carried. So just to, this is exciting. We're so excited to have the new members. Just to let you know that this recommendation goes forward to the PPACG board. And Jody, how soon do they meet?
Their next meeting will be on March 9th. So if there are any items to vote on today, you can't vote officially, but you are welcome to discuss, to share, discuss, ask questions as members. They'll formally be recognized as members after the March 9th meeting. And just so you know, that is, it's very rare that there would be discussion or a refusal of that vote. It's part of the cursory portion of the bylaws steps that we must take as the type of organization we are. So welcome aboard, both Debbie and Maria. We appreciate you wanting to be part of the Regional Advisory Council and look forward to being able to work with you in the future. So thank you, B.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're all excited about adding new members and bringing all the wonderful experience to the RAC. The next item of business is appointment of committee chairs, and that's in my role as chair. For the TRS committee, which is our technical review committee, Chris Sheehan Larson will remain as chair. She's done a great job in that role, and we look forward to another year of her serving in that role. For membership committee, Rosemary Hermel has agreed to be chair of that committee. And of course, we already put her to work interviewing our new candidates. So she's jumped in feet first on that one. And then our strategic review subcommittee, that's our SRS committee. Jen Nimmo is going to continue as chair of that committee. So thank you to those members who have agreed to be chair of those committees. And if members aren't already on a committee, I would highly recommend that you volunteer to be on one of the committees. That's really how you learn more about how our advisory committee works. The technical review committee reviews proposals for the allocation of funds. So if you like to look at dollars and cents, that's a good committee to join. The membership committee is obviously searches for and interviews possible new members. And then the strategic review subcommittee is more of an issues discussion committee, looking at our 4-year plan and looking at whether or not we're on the road to meeting some of those 4-year plan objectives. So if you want to join a committee, you could send that notice to me and to Melissa, and we'll move forward getting you the information you need for when they meet and so forth. Okay, well, let's move on then to our presenters. We have Eric Seymour of Hop Skip Drive. We'd love to hear more about your organization.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much for having me here, everyone. Very grateful to be here. I just want to see, okay, I can share my screen. I'm going to go ahead. I have a short little slide deck to share. I know I don't have a ton of time. Man, this is going to be weird. Sorry. I am just figuring out how to share this. And
we've got some background noise. If somebody, you may need to mute your microphone.
Hopefully it's not coming from my end. Is it on my end?
I don't, if you can't hear it, yeah, no.
Sounds like somebody at a meeting.
Yeah, it's probably on my end. I'm very sorry about that. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, I'm sorry for the noise. I am in the middle of a travel, and I just wanted to not miss this meeting, so I hope you'll forgive me for that. Hey everyone, I am Eric Seymour. I'm with Hop Skip Drive. I am the regional sales manager for Hop Skip Drive, covering the states of Colorado, Nevada, and Washington currently. We're a pretty new company. We're about 6 years old. We're expanding fast across the US. We primarily specialize in, the majority of our business specializes in transporting children. However, we found a very good niche in being able to support anyone who needs a little bit of extra help, care, or safety when it comes to transportation, or anyone who needs better access to transportation. So we found a really great partner in Dr. Cog up in Denver. And we've been looking to expand that type of our business, and I've been able to get connected with Pikes Peak AAA, and we're going through the process. So I want to share a little bit about Hop Skip Drive with you. Hop Skip Drive is a very unique transportation solution. We combine technology and a unique individual, which we refer to as a care driver. It's an independent contractor that's in the community, there to support the community, and they work when they want and drive when they want. And the way our system works is we have a really unique technology platform that connects the type of people who need transportation with care drivers to be able to perform that transportation. So it's a very quick, very reliable, very flexible, and very safe environment. So I'll just walk you through what that looks like. So safety, I can't say that word enough. It's front and center in our company and how we manage our company. We have a very extensive driver vetting selection process, which I'll go through here shortly. We have some very unique and effective safe ride protocols, which I'll talk through, and then safe ride support as well. And I apologize. I'm going to be moving through this pretty quickly just because I don't want to take too long. But on this slide here, it really gives you a very high level overview of our background checks, which we do, the deepest legally permissible background check, including fingerprints with the FBI and the state of Colorado. We also, when it comes to transporting children, we do a child abuse and neglect check as well. And then there's several other factors that are going to be disqualifying along with just the background checks. Then we also obviously check the vehicles. We're regulated in the state of Colorado by the PUC, and they require all the vehicles in our platform to be inspected and approved on an annual basis. It has to be a 19-point inspection by a certified and approved mechanic. And just back to the PUC, that's quite a bit of oversight, and we're very well regulated by them to that regard. And then also after the inspections and the background checks, there's a whole suite of training and behavior, protocols that we have to go through with each and every care driver before they're approved. We obviously have adopted a zero tolerance for smoking, drugs, and alcohol. And then we also have a very strict zero tolerance policy for mobile device usage in the car. We're actually the only transportation provider out there that can actually actively monitor whether a driver is using their phone illegally while in motion. So it's a very, very special feature for us, just because that is the leading cause of unfortunate accidents these days. Talking through again, Safe Ride Support. Safe Ride Support is a fully staffed team that is essentially watching and monitoring all the rides as they're happening. So they are live people in our offices around the country that are actually monitoring rides, checking for anything that's out of the ordinary, but they also have an alert-based system that's going to let them know when there's something that needs their response, whether it's a flat tire or a driver is, off route, or a caregiver or a rider, or the organizer calls and there's an issue with something. That's a whole team there to help. They're on call all the time whenever rides are going. They're also tracking behavior like speeding, rapid acceleration, hard braking, hard turning. Of course, I mentioned the device usage and distraction as well. When it comes to the pickup process, this is something that we've actually really refined in a nice way with Dr. Cog and the type of clients that they are supporting. But we have essentially a very safe pickup and verification procedure. If any of you have taken an Uber, they ask you your name, and that's about it. With us, we have a much more secure process to make sure that that client of yours is getting in the car with the right individual, that individual that's been vetted, approved, and actually sent there by Hospital Drive. So we have a special code word, and then we have a few other protocols that we go through as well. And then just real quick snapshot. So as the organizer, Pikes Peak AAA, as the organizer, would have full visibility into who the care driver is, the car, the license plate, the location of the ride, how it's going, where it's going, all that. And then the client would have access to all that information as well on a mobile device, or if they're not feeling comfortable with a smartphone, we can also push all of this information by text message to their phone, whatever type of phone that is. And then just to wrap up here, I just wanted to go through, how we're supporting older adults, especially in Colorado and California. We're really, with our platform, we're really promoting independence through safe and reliable transportation. We are helping individuals get to appointments, whether that be doctor's appointments or vaccination appointments, or shopping or food banks or family visits. Our partnership with Dr. Cog, I believe they are allowed a handful of personal trips per month, and then they also can do, I think, unlimited medical appointments. And the beauty of our system is we're really leveraging technology to increase safety and reliability, but remaining very flexible, right? So we're a car-to-car, a curb-to-curb type car service that'll get you into those more unique areas and get people where they need to go. Especially those individuals who, are not able to, wait for public transit, or they need a little bit of extra help. We're a great resource for them. And then also our system's really great because you book the rides as needed, or you plan out long-term schedules. You pay us when you use us, and we are there basically on standby whenever you need us. And then we have a really great flexible solutions for short-term needs and programs. I know Dr. Cog reached out to us last year when the vaccine was rolling out, and we were able to really quickly put together an awesome program to get as many of their clients to local vaccination locations to get them all squared away. And then we're able to really quickly and easily schedule that second dose appointment and have it be reliable and not have to worry about that transportation piece. So I really blew through all that. Hopefully that gives you an okay overview of who Hop Skip Drive is. I don't know if there's time for questions, but I'm happy to answer anything.
Just, is this private pay, or will the rides be somehow covered, or how does that work?
Yeah, so, I can speak to how we organize ourselves throughout the country. We're generally, so for me, I'm responsible for our B2B side of our business. So I work with organizations, nonprofits, school districts, county government contracts, you name it. So in the sense of Pikes Peak AAA, Hopscotch Drive is going to be responding to the active RFP. We're hoping to, be awarded on that. And if that were the case, then there would be some sort of funding that would be directed towards this. So we do have a consumer side of our business, but just to set expectations, in the El Paso or, that greater Pikes Peak area, we're not currently doing consumer rides. So that's an option for the future where people can just download the app and book the rides for themselves out of their own wallets. But right now our focus is to partner with, the county, this organization, and obviously the school districts in the area, which we're already in process of doing a lot of that.
Mary, you have a question?
I did. First, I missed, did you say that the drivers are driving their own vehicles?
I did not say that, but you are absolutely right. They are. Sorry, I failed to mention that. They are independent contractors driving their own vehicles. We have a whole set of restrictions or, limitations on what type of vehicle and how old it can be. And it has to go through a very strict process with the state of Colorado to be licensed and approved. We are a TNC, a transportation network company. So if you look into that, we're, I don't want to compare us to Uber and Lyft, but we're a similar type of company as that.
I did want to compare you to Uber and the Lyft, especially as how that goes with the pay scale. I think Uber, I don't do them, but I think they have a set fee. And if you're that kind of a company, are you having a set fee? Or are you, do you have a sliding scale? And my other question, because I'm going to do it and get done, is do you have the vehicles equipped with wheelchair lifts and support for the wheelchair and that kind of thing?
Yeah, currently we're not capable of offering wheel vehicles or wave vehicles. It's on our short list to do. Really what we have to do is get our markets set up and strong, and then we can start making those investments and adding those. We definitely help direct folks to other resources when those particular resources are needed. In Denver, where we're very strong and we've been active since 2018, we're currently looking into adding some SUV and wheelchair accessible vehicle resources. Along with the pricing, it's fixed. The problem with Uber and Lyft is they have surge pricing and they have things that are not advantageous to the client. We have a fixed rate, and we have a very set pricing model, and we don't pass any overages on to the client. So, or in this situation, the organization. So we have a very advantageous pricing program that's set up in advance, and it doesn't include any surge pricing or anything like that.
Okay, and I have one final question. What is it you would do with money that you got from us if you got it from the area agencies? What would you do with that money?
I mean, I think our goal is pretty straightforward. We just want to help provide, safe, accessible transportation to older adults to remain independent. And that's really the mission of our company, is just to provide, independence and safety through transportation. Like I said, a lot of what we do elsewhere is transport students to school. Those are mostly homeless students or foster students or students with special needs. And then on the side of supporting older adults, it really comes down to, if they want to live independently, they need, safe, accessible transportation if they don't have their own form of transportation. And I think we've proven that through our partnership with Dr. Cog. I'll keep going back to that because we're able to get folks wherever they need to go, and they're able to remain independent, and we're able to provide that extra layer of safety that a normal taxi or car service doesn't necessarily have built into their program.
Okay, at this time, you have no services in our Tri-County area.
We do. We have some in El Paso County right now. Like I said, we're trying to expand there, so we're really doing a lot of work to get that up and running. I'm contracted with 3 different school districts. I'm currently in contract negotiations with the county for the Department of Human Services, specifically for foster children. And then that would probably spin off and include other things that the county offers just service-wise.
Okay, because we've got mountain people who are isolated, And of course, they're part of our jurisdiction, so we'd expect service for those other 2 counties as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always easy, but we can absolutely do it. I would point to our partnership with Jefferson County Department of Human Services and Jeffco Public Schools. I mean, I send drivers all the way up to Evergreen every day to pick up students or to pick up whoever needs a ride, and that's pretty much in the mountains. And we also work with Boulder County and all the other surrounding counties. So mountains aren't easy, but that doesn't mean we can't do it. We can certainly find a way to make that work.
Thank you, Eric. I certainly have predominated your conversation. Forgive me for that. But
Oh, that's okay.
I was really interested to know. So thank you.
Yeah.
Melissa, did you have a question?
So I just wanted to remind everybody that our 3 presenters today are brand new organizations who are applying for the AAA funding coming up for this next cycle. So you know, we most likely haven't heard from these folks before. They're brand new and, you know, are submitting applications for the TRS to be reviewing. So just a reminder about that. And thanks, Eric, for being here and sharing that. And then I'll turn it over to whoever else.
I just want to say one last thing. I'm sorry. I just want to say, hey, again, I'm very grateful for being here. Thank you so much. Sorry for me being at the airport. I didn't want to miss this opportunity. So thank you so much.
Jody, did you have something you wanted to ask or add?
Yeah, I just wanted to share. So Dr. Cog, for those of you who may be new or may not recognize that moniker, Dr. Cog is not an individual. It's the Denver Regional Council of Governments. So it's essentially our PPACG up in Denver. And so the AAA resides in the Denver with 16 counties in the Denver metro area. So just so you're aware of that's who he was referring really to. Important. And that is, yes. And so they did work with Eric and Hop Skip Drive as a bit of a pilot program and got that off the ground. They recognize the difference in contracting with someone, organizations like Uber or Lyft for these individual rides because of the extra steps that they take in security and safety for their riders. And so that is why they decided to contract and pilot with Hop Skip Drive. And so as Melissa mentioned, they have applied or they are in the process of applying for this next round of funding. So just wanted to provide a little bit of clarification there for everyone. So Eric, thank you very much for your time today. I understand sitting in an airport, that's what I was doing a couple of months ago for this very same meeting. So texting
right.
with
we've heard that background noise before, haven't we, Jody?
Yes.
Well, thank you
so much.
Thank you so much, Eric, and we look forward to seeing your application. That'll be
looks like Debbie might have a question there. Oh. Debbie, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So the kind of rides that they would be providing, the funding would be through the Older Americans Act. So the rides that they would be providing would be specific for like medical or shopping, or I mean, there would probably be very specific things that the money would pay for. Is that how that would work?
Yeah, it would fall. It would fall specifically within the parameters of the Older Americans Act and the Older Coloradans Act, and so yes, it would. And keep in mind, just like Eric mentioned, this is curb to curb. It's not door through door. So that's also an important distinction. But if someone does not need door through door, but they are looking for that individualized service, then this gives yet another opportunity for transportation options here. So
great.
Well, thank you so much, Eric. And let's move on to another new proposal going to be coming from Goodwill. Kristen Amundsen is here to tell us about that. Kristen.
Thank you, everyone. I do have some slides that I've used before for the MCC meetings, so I can try to share that with you guys. See if that'll Everyone see that okay?
Yes,
Okay, great.
very good.
So thanks for having us today, or me. I do have to apologize. Our transportation manager had a transportation emergency. So you get me, I am our business development specialist. And so I've just been with Goodwill for about 10 years and kind of was adopted under some of our grants, our grant programs and transportation side of things, but I also market a lot of our community programs. So I'm going to give you kind of a quick overview. I know Goodwill is not new, but we are new to applying for some of these funds. And so I just wanted to kind of give you an overview. A lot of people have different thoughts and ideas about Goodwill and what they know. So I'm just going to give you a really quick background on who we are, and then I'll hit on our program that we're looking at for the grant application. So Goodwill, whether you know your Goodwill here or if you grew up in another part of the country, a lot of Goodwills are different, but we all belong to Goodwill International, but we have our own CEOs and our own community programs. So you might see Goodwills all across the country, but we all are a little bit different, but our mission is to help, we're really dedicated to helping people reach their highest level of personal and economic independence. So whatever that looks like, seniors, people with disabilities, employment, community programs, we do it all. So Goodwill of Colorado, we are Goodwill of Colorado Springs, and we merged with Denver. So when you see Goodwill, now we're actually one Goodwill for the whole entire state. So that map that you see is our stores across the state. We have one out in Grand Junction, and then kind of how we do it is, as new stores are being built, we follow each store with mission programs, whether it's an employment program or senior program. But most of our core business and everything that we do is pretty much Colorado Springs and the Denver Front Range area. So that's a snapshot there. I always like to do a couple little myth busters. Some people don't know that we're nonprofit, but our stores do support the programs for Coloradans in need. So the stores, donations, everything that you do in the retail side does come back to support our programs that you hear about. We have our own CEO. So each Goodwill has their own CEO, and our CEO is Carla Grazier, and she's on a lot of boards in the community. She does not make $1 million. So if you hear things like that in the media, that Goodwill CEOs make $1 million and our folks are paid pennies, that is not true. We're independent organizations. So like I said, we're all a part and regulated by Goodwill International, but we have our own own programs, what works for the community everywhere you go. And then all of our Goodwill employees earn minimum wage or higher. So I'm on our contracts division side, where we do hire a lot of folks with very, very significant disabilities in the community that otherwise would not have a job. And they are paid at least $15 an hour plus federal wages or federal health and welfare. So a lot of their incomes are actually like $18 an hour or more. And we do allow them for growth to become supervisors and grow in those positions. So I just like to kind of bust some of those myths that people might hear about, nationwide Goodwills. And then you may know someone we have helped, whether we've given them a ride, given them some assistance finding a job. Our mission is, or our reach is vast. So this is just a snapshot of some of the things we do. I'll just let you kind of look over it, but a lot of, recycling, employment programs. We do employ a lot of people. So we have over 3,000 employees now that we're one Goodwill. 90 cents on every dollar of our retail side goes back to our programs. So sorry, I'm going all so fast. So to get on the community, to get on the transportation side of things, and this is what Andrew, our manager, would hopefully have answered any questions. I'll do my best at the end if you have specific questions, but Goodwills is kind of a new community transportation. We've been doing it for a couple years, and we've been growing quite a bit. And so you might see these vans around town, but they do door-through-door service, going to appointments, community outings, and other destinations. We also work with senior facilities sometimes, and we do customized plans to help their individuals get out into the community. We can accommodate wheelchairs. So every vehicle that you see here can accommodate the wheelchairs. We can accommodate oxygen, anything that they need, as well as, completely ambulatory. A huge part of our focus is Medicaid and EMT rides. We do take private insurance if that covers it for the individual. And we also do private pay. So we will see, you know, anyone, anywhere can take a ride. And as you can see, our slogan is kind of your ride, your way. But I would say what Andrew let me know is about at least 50% of our rides are seniors or folks with disabilities. We have 16 5-passenger vans. So this is pretty much what you'll see out in the community. We do throughout Goodwill have larger 15-passenger buses that we can customize and use for other rides, you know, with community transportation. And then if this is still true, the 20-mile transport is through private insurance. Otherwise, we have an unlimited radius for private pay. And usually what they'll do, we do kind of have an average cost per ride, but what they'll do is call the dispatch line, let them know where they want to go, and then they can give them a quote, you know, where if they're going up to Teller County or wherever they want to go, we can do that with them and kind of try to customize a ride for them. And then approximately last year, they did about 17,511 rides in the community. And then at the bottom, you'll see our dispatch line. At the moment, it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. I do know that they talk about customized rides on Saturdays. I don't know that it's an ongoing thing, but I know that they're definitely talking about expansion. And then they transport between the hours of 3 a.m. and 10 p.m. or by appointment. So I do think they really try to help tweak and customize for people with the odd hours that they're going to appointments. So this is primarily what we would look for the grant application. We are kind of looking at helping assistance with fuel, the overages. Fuel has doubled, you know, in the last year on our costs and budgets. So we were discussing applying for help assistance with the higher cost of fuel in our budget. And this is more of the open door program. I did want to let you know that we do have a program. Typically, we've applied for 5310 funds in the past. And that's what we were looking at for this application, this cycle. And so we've been lucky to get some awesome support from CDOT for both programs and getting vehicles to help with our program. So I just wanted to let you know that we do have a program at the Air Force Academy. We have an Ability One janitorial contract where 75% of everyone on that contract has a very significant disability. And we transport probably about 35 people to work every day. There is no transportation on base. And so we pick them up door to door, bring them to work. They work all day, and then we take them to one central location and they can ride Metro Mobility or get picked up at the end of the day. And we coordinate all of that with them. And so we've been doing that for a really long time. The contract's been going since 1994. And back in the day, we used to get some assistance through JARC, so the Job Access Grant. So I just want to let you know that's something we do. But even though most of our applications in the funding world, we typically look at Goodwills because it's open to so many people. So, and there's my contact information. Andrew Smith is our transportation manager who could help answer any questions on specifics about Goodwills. But we're super excited to have the community support and get to know more of these committees and spread the word. So if you have any questions, I'll do my very best. If not, I'm happy to pass it on to Andrew and I'll get back to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Do we have questions for Kristen?
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned that 50% of your rides were seniors. Can you just give me an idea of where you're taking seniors?
Yeah, mostly, and I'll get more information for application. Most of it's medical appointments. I think just things that they're not able to find normal access to. So most of it's medical appointments, I believe.
They're Medicaid folks for that or not?
I think it's a mixture. But yeah, Andrew would know more specifics. But yeah, most of it's Medicaid.
Other
questions?
I have a
Mary?
question. Somebody else, Jody, somebody else did too. My question was, I lost it. Does private insurance cover any of your services?
That I don't know. I do know some insurance do, but I don't know how typical that is. So I can definitely find out, but I think every time, usually what they tell me, because I'm more of the community person and the business development, is that just call the dispatch line and talk them through the scenario, and then they can try to figure out how to pay for it. But yeah, I don't think it's as common, but I do know it kind of depends on what they have. So I know that primarily it's an EMT. I do know we take people all over, kind of like the Uber model. They call the dispatch line and coordinate. So I just know that it varies kind of on what the pay is.
Right. So it could be a sliding scale.
Possibly. Yeah. I don't know that we have a set one, but I think they work with each person. That's kind of usually what they tell me. So.
What a fine presentation you gave.
Oh, thank you.
Great. And I always, when I first came on the committee, I had to learn these things like door to door and door through door.
Yeah.
Could you just, for new people, could you describe what door through door means?
Yeah, they will pick you up, and if you need assistance in your door, going inside, getting your equipment, things like that, they will go through the door and help you and get you in the car. And then more the door to door is kind of how I understand it for some folks. It's just kind of pulls up to the curb and here we are waiting for you, So it's just whatever the level of need that person has, they will do that. But yeah, Goodwill's is definitely customized to that, to go inside the house and help you.
So they might help you get your oxygen out to the van.
Yes, everything equipment related for sure. Yeah, it actually used to be kind of combined with our home care division. We have a home care service. And so a lot of times we even let people ride with them if they have a care manager or things like that as well. So, yeah.
I'm going to be my usual thorn in the side. Have you considered moving a van up to the Woodland Park? The group there is pretty good sized.
Oh, kind of having like a stationary van kind of circulating. I think they go to Woodland Park. I just don't know how often, but I can certainly check for you or find out, how often do we go, and maybe we could find a driver in that location. We typically have our vehicles parked at our facility, but I don't know that they're opposed to having one, somewhere else, or if they found a driver up in that area, but I'll definitely pass it on to the operations side.
Yes, I say that your store there is quite large and well organized. So,
yeah, no, I'll let them know. We're always looking on ways to expand and utilize our retail side too, to kind of leverage our resources and infrastructure that we have. But we do get broken into a lot. Not that they would at Woodland Park, but we definitely have a lot of issues with vehicle theft, stealing gas, catalytic converters, all of that crazy stuff.
Wow, sure.
And Kristen,
are there other questions?
Yeah, so this is Melissa. Kristen, you mentioned, this is your community ride program. Can you clarify if this is just for individuals who are enrolled in Goodwill services, or have you guys opened up to the community at large?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that. Goodwills is for anyone, anywhere, has nothing to do with Goodwill programs. You just give us a call and we'll give you a ride, as long as we can figure out the funding source or if you're going to pay privately. Goodwill does have like the Air Force Academy transportation, like I mentioned, or day programs. Those are typically for our clients that we transport. So we're always trying to make sure we fill the gaps and helping them get to where they need to go. But yeah, absolutely. Goodwills is community, anyone, don't have to have any ties to Goodwill whatsoever. So.
That is the program that you're asking for funding for, is Goodwills.
Yeah, correct. Yep. I wanted to let you know that we have that other part in case there's ever, a niche of something that you hear, there's a gap, or just letting you know that we do that. But I am aware of kind of like the regulations. And so we in the past have typically always focused on 5310 for Goodwill's open door model for the funding.
Any other questions for Kristen? Well, thank you so much, Kristen. Once again, we look forward to your application, and
Yeah,
we appreciate the services you provide, and looking forward to hearing more from you. Okay?
great. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
All right. And then our third presenter, Terry, is she here?
She's not on yet. She was thinking she would get on at about 10:45. She was in transit. So I'll let you know, B, as soon as I see her come in.
Okay. Thank you. Obviously, our membership subcommittee did their work already today. So is there anything else related to that, Melissa?
I don't think so. Nope, you're good.
Oh, all right. Our strategic review subcommittee, we don't have our chair here, Jen, today. Did she set a meeting?
I haven't heard from her, so no, I think.
Okay. Well, then our director's report. Jody?
Certainly. Would you like me to touch on the TRS update as well?
Yes,
Dee?
I just was looking at that and I thought, well, we don't have Chris here, so I was hoping you would do that.
I am most happy to do
Melissa,
that. So
do
let
you
me
wanna put Jody on screen, take off the agenda.
Sure.
I was going to say, no, that's okay.
You know me, I like
Okay,
to
so-
see people's faces.
Sure. So as just a little bit of background and history on the TRS, as you know, the TRS subcommittee reviews traditionally the RFPs in the spring, helps coordinate the outgoing funding for projects. But because of the varying types of funding we receive, state funding must be used within the contract year, which for us is July 1 to June 30th. But federal funding can extend one more year. So sometimes there are priorities in the way that we are asked to spend our funding. And as you know, in 2020, there were also a variety of CARES Act funding, Family First funding, that kind of thing that took precedent over our traditional funding. Therefore, there was a large amount of federal carryover funding into this contract period. As you know, the TRS made their recommendations a couple months ago for the funding in January. Those carryover contract amendments have been completed. Providers have access to those funds now. It is all standard formula usage, so standard match applies. Traditional usage, we do still have flexibility under the current major disaster declaration that was enacted at the beginning of COVID. That is still in place, which gives us some flexibility in how the funds may be used. However, when we were notified of carryover funding being made available into the region, a traditional message came with that, and it was to be used for programs, not program expansion or new programs. Traditionally, carryover is just to serve programs and services that are already under contract. We may not look outward to host any new contractors. And so obviously fairly narrow usage. The TRS did a really great job in working with the 8 initial providers who submitted their mini RFP requests. We went through that, but we also asked for a secondary approval recommendation from the TRS to the PPACG Board of Directors to essentially become a contingency fund for spending this rapidly, because the carryover funding must be used by June 30th, essentially the end of this contract period. The contingency fund was approved by the board of directors, and at the same time or shortly thereafter, I approached the State Unit on Aging, our administrators at the state level, and because it was even after a substantial request, we had nearly $1 million left to spend. And so I approached the state unit manager, and he said, yes, we're going to go ahead and expand the usage of carryover funding, what you may spend on. And so they did expand that to capital expense items. And so we put out the word for round 2 of funding, and along with that contingency plan that the TRS had recommended, I submitted the request to the TRS subcommittee. We turned around approval very quickly, and we're actually in the process of amending those contracts now. We had a request in round 2 from us here at AAA for some program increases just due to the increases in calls and services that we've been providing. We had requests from Invita, Silver Key, Eyesight Rehab, Project Angel Heart, and the Colorado Springs Senior Center under PPYMCA. Those requests totaled $693,190.61, which still leaves us a carryover balance of $266,400.13. So we have just sent out this past Friday, yet another call out to providers for essentially round 3 of carryover funding balance. And I will say that traditionally, carryover has been very difficult to spend here in Region 4 because our providers use their funding pretty well. And yet there have been carryover funds in the past that was very difficult to spend because of the initial programs and services only requirement, where they've been able to expand that for us to capital expenses. It has allowed several of our providers to meet the ongoing transportation needs of our community. You know, it's always exciting to go down the road and see a Silver Key or an Invita 15-passenger van, but COVID changed a lot of how our providers are able to provide that direct transportation services. COVID also made a lot of changes in the way that some of our smaller providers are able to continue meeting the needs of their clients. And so by expanding the carryover into capital expenses, some of our providers who may not have the usual funding capacity have been able to add material goods, computers, readers. I'll be really excited when Tim Richards from Eyesight Rehab gets to present when it's his turn about all the awesome training and volunteer programs that he's been able to stand up because of some of this program funding. And so really excited to share that with you. Like I said, we just put out a big word about round 3 of the last $250,000 available. I have no doubt that we will be able to spend. We did establish a system, much like we did during the COVID funds, that there's a specific deadline that they must meet that enables us as staff to turn that around to TRS. TRS can get that approval to us, and then we can meet our internal processing requirements and deadlines to make sure that funds are available and added to the individual contracts. So I appreciate all of you who have been part of that process and those conversations, and just know that we are still plugging away to make sure that we can get those funds spent. I do want to explain also that this isn't just a matter of spending money for spending money's sake. The federal funds must be spent down in order to meet certain match requirements between the state and federal funding levels. If those are not met, the entire state suffers as it relates to overall funding. If we don't spend our portion, ultimately, then overages will go back into the state pot, as it were, and not be and portions not be eligible to come back into Region 4. So it's very important for us to make sure that these funds that are set aside specifically for Region 4, El Paso, Teller, and Park counties, does get spent, that it makes sense, that it's practical. And do know that we, my staff and I, do a lot of due diligence with the providers. We invite them over and over again to ask questions. I even went to the Colorado Springs Senior Center not too long ago to talk about programs and what are eligible expenses and that kind of thing. Spent some time at Silver Key a couple weeks ago, which I'll touch on a little bit more with our state assessment process. But the nice thing about that is that I can walk through the building and listen and hear and say, what about this? We could cover that with this funding, you know, and think sometimes some ideas that the providers either don't realize are eligible expenses or are concerned about requesting or feel that they can't request. And so we have just started our quarterly provider meetings that I've mentioned in the past. First one went really well. It was yesterday morning. Those will continue on as long as we can possibly make that happen, because it's really an opportunity for us as staff to have opportunity to visit with the providers to visit with each other. And that's where the collaborative efforts really begin to gel. There's a lot of collaboration during COVID and still ongoing between providers across county lines. And because it's still all within our region, that's very much encouraged. It's a little challenging with other sources of funding that have very specific boundaries. Ours do not have those specific boundary requirements. And so we're able to encourage some additional collaboration. And so through these quarterly meetings, that's really our goal, is to give a platform for providers to say, this is a challenge. Have you all seen this? What recommendations might you have? And they took me up on it yesterday. Kathy Lowry from Teller Senior Coalition there in Divide presented a unique scenario of how they're challenged in working with a particular client or a potential client. And there was a lot of interaction, a lot of scenarios tossed around, and gave her an opportunity to share her contact information so that others could reach out to her and continue having those conversations and recommendations. So really pleased how well that first meeting went. It was touched on really briefly by B. B did a really great job at the very beginning of the meeting, talking about the different kinds of subcommittees we have. But she mentioned the 4-year plan. For those of you who are not familiar with the four-year plan, it is available on our website. I would encourage you to read it, because that, much like a traditional strategic plan, is also one of our guiding plans. We are very careful here at PPACG not to create a report and put it on a shelf. That has happened in the past, but under our current leadership with Andrew Gunning and then staff efforts, we have been very careful to actually use that information that was drawn up in the strategic plan for PPACG a few years ago, and then our most recent 4-year plan findings. And that is actually what created the SRS, the Strategic Review Subcommittee. That team, along with several staff, review that the 4-year plan on a regular basis, or provide updates to that. Are we staying on track? It's also where we kind of build out our work priorities. And so we do really live and breathe by that. Our board is very good at saying, you know, is this issue that's come before us, is this part of our strategic plan? Is this part of our work priorities? And so we do the same thing here at the Area Agency on Aging. So I would encourage you to take a look at that, because guess what? 4 years are almost up and it's time to do another one. So you will be hearing more about that probably very soon. We'll probably recruit some of you, especially maybe some of you new members, to participate with us on the SRS, because the beauty of that is it does take the stakeholder input at heart, and really builds in those priorities, instead of making assumptions, as one might want to do, that, you know, transportation and housing are always going to be the top levels. Well, maybe they are, maybe they aren't this time around. So how do we know, and you know, how do we know what the challenges are, and how can we build our work plan and our work priorities around that if we're not collecting enough information? The 4-year plan has a lot of requirements, or a lot of stakeholder input. It's very involved. I was, for those of you who may not know, I sat on this committee for 2 years before I came on staff. So got to live through that 4-year plan before I came on staff. So yay, I'll get to do another one. But it is good. It drives what we do and how we serve our community day by day. So with that, I'm going to pause. I see Terry was able to join us. That's awesome. Thank you. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to entertain those now. Otherwise, I will hand it back to B. Okay, B, it's all yours.
Okay. Well, we're glad to see that Terry Cassidy has joined us as we from Health Promotions Partners. Once again, Terry is hoping to be a new provider for AAA. And so we'd love to hear more about, your programs and what you do for seniors in our community. So Terry, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, thank you so much. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
I mean, there's like background noise here. I apologize that I'm not in town or in
We
person
can't hear
for
the
this.
background noise. We were in an airport earlier on, so we're doing just fine right now.
So this is pretty quiet.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you so much for letting me come on. And I'm excited to just spend a couple minutes introducing myself and the programs that we plan to apply for funding for. I'll talk about those, but I'm going to start a little bit with the company just for some context and myself, actually. So I'm an occupational therapist. I've been serving primarily seniors in this community for about 20 years. 17 years of that was as an OT at Penrose Hospital in the inpatient unit and then in the outpatient area there, and then started Health Promotion Partners about 3 years ago. So for me, I went back and got a doctorate in occupational therapy about 5 years ago. And what that really did was help me kind of view what we do in a different way and turning more, occupational therapy is, with adults is very medical model. And what I really want to do is bring the value of what we do more into the community. So that's really where I'm headed with the programs that we provide. I am also a certified driver rehabilitation specialist, CDRS, and that is something that there's probably only about 180 people in the country with that designation. Majority are occupational therapists. So we've just gone through rigorous training to address driving across the lifespan. There's about 6 of us in Colorado, and I'm the only CDRS in Southern Colorado currently, although some of my staff are hopefully sitting for that test this year. So Health Promotion Partners, we have 3 locations, which is why I'm in Fort Collins right this moment. But we have a Fort Collins office, an office in Westminster, and Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs is our main location where all of our admin work is, and certainly the programs for this grant are for the El Paso County area. We have 8 occupational therapists across those locations, and then 2 staff. So pretty small women-owned and operated business. And I just mentioned a couple of things. In 2018, I was given the Marjorie Ball Award, which is the highest award for an occupational therapist within the state association. In 2019, awarded from the American Occupational Therapy Association, the Innovative Practice Award. So I just mentioned those to bring up that I'm really passionate about what I do and really dedicated to seeing how this profession can really help older adults in terms, especially in finding ways to stay home, finding ways to be safe and engaged in their community as they age. So our 2 programs that we are putting in proposals for are for the Fitness to Drive program, the driving rehabilitation program, and then another one geared toward family caregivers and people with dementia. So for the driving program, I'll keep it brief and happy to answer questions at another time or whatever works for you guys. But basically what we do is work one-on-one with individuals to help them make safety decisions about driving. So as a company, we work with people across the lifespan. Could be a young adult with special needs who doesn't fit into a traditional driver's education curriculum. But in terms of for this grant, and just in general, the majority of people we work with are over the age of 60, either coming to see us after a medical event. Stroke is probably the most common, but a diagnosis of MS or Parkinson's. Nowadays, a lot of other things too, post-COVID, for example. So some medical stays where there's been a functional change and they're not sure if they're safe to get back to driving, or their doctor wants them to be cleared to get back to driving. The other kind of main population we see is where the client themselves usually feels like they're doing just fine, but it's the family that in some way, or the doctor has a concern. And that could be just based on age. We saw somebody who was 93 the other day, and the family's like, let's just say that his doctor makes everybody over 90 come do this test. So there's different ways that people get connected with us. But what we do is spend 3 hours with that individual. So we spend about an hour and a half in the clinic looking at vision, strength, range of motion, cognition, processing speed. So a really thorough clinical look at the skills related to driving. And then we go out in the car. So we have our vehicles with a gas and a brake on the passenger side. We have a standard route that we take. Although we do vary that, if someone only drives close to home, we may drive by their home and have them do their normal routes. We spend about an hour in the vehicle and then come back and discuss what we find. So we do work closely with the medical doctor. We request a referral from the doctor and send a report back to the doctor afterwards, particularly if there's anything that needs to be communicated to the DMV. What we do, we don't report directly to the DMV. Any of that would go through a doctor. But that's kind of the driving piece. We may occasionally see people for training or additional things. We do things with adaptive equipment if somebody needs to change from driving with their feet to driving with their hands. So that's a big part of what we do in terms of driving. We also just see, as I mentioned, we see a lot of older adults. And in that clinical evaluation, we're talking about how are you doing with managing your finances? How are you doing with managing your medications? What's your home setup? So we get a lot of information, and that really led us to starting this other program of some people with dementia, mild cognitive impairment, early stages of Alzheimer's may come for a driving evaluation, and we can give an answer about that, but then we see that there's other needs. Who do we connect this person with? And so that really led us to this program called Skills to Care. which is a research-based program licensed through Thomas Jefferson University, specifically for occupational therapists to address basically helping caregivers have the skills to work with or help somebody with dementia. So what we do in that program is go to their home, meet with the family caregiver and the person with dementia, get an idea of kind of functional, how things are going in the home in terms of home safety, but a lot of just like, what's the cognitive level? Where is this person in their journey, basically? And then also assessment of the caregiver in terms of readiness to change. It's not what they call it, but it's kind of how I think of it. It's like, where are they in this process? Are they open to feedback in the way that they're dealing with certain things? Because if they're not, then it's not really a great fit for our program, basically. So we're able to get in and get a lot of information right away. The goal is helping the caregiver come up with strategies to address behaviors that are common in people with dementia. So it may be that during that first session, that family identifies that this individual's getting up at night, we're afraid of them wandering at night when nobody's awake, maybe resistance to bathing, resistance to getting dressed. Somebody the other day was, the issue the family brought up is just he argues with everything I say. And so a lot of it is really looking at what is that interaction between the caregiver and the person with dementia, and acknowledging, and this is why we need the caregiver buy-in, is that caregiver willing to recognize that if something in this dynamic is going to change, it needs to be them, that the person with dementia is not capable of changing the way that they're doing things right now. So there's a lot of education around that and caregiver support. And that is, typically about 6 sessions. So going into the homes, coming up with a plan, going back a week or 2 later, check in, see how it's going, address the next behavior. But that could vary. Some families, a couple visits and they're like, we get it, we understand, we're on board, and they're good to go. So that's, I think, the most important pieces of that. Thank you.
Great. I have a question. Well, no, most people here know that I volunteer once a week here and I answer phones for half a day. And I have done it for the last 7 years, I think. So I've answered thousands of phone calls from seniors, from their family members, from their caregivers, from their neighbors, that type of thing. Anyway, and the issue related to fitness to drive, I mean, that consistently comes up periodically. What do we do about, whether or not mom or dad should continue driving? So I guess I see your service as filling a gap that's out there. I'm looking forward to learning more about it in your application. That's just a comment, I guess. Mary, you have a question? You have to turn on your microphone.
Sorry. Linking to what you just said, that was my question. I've never heard of such a program and it sounds fantastic, but do you link in at all with the AARP defensive driving course? Are you able at sometimes to say, well, you can't do it now, but with a little extra training, we can put you back in your car?
Yeah, those are great questions. So in terms of AARP, yes, we definitely recommend the safe driving course. Something we've done and hope to do more as kind of things open up is CarFit. Also, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but that's another community-based free program for the public in just looking at how well they fit in their vehicle. So I think there are a lot of great programs that we kind of support each other. Honestly, in terms of training, it comes down to the results of the clinical evaluation. So if somebody has a degenerative cognitive decline, we are not going to offer training. If somebody has had a medical incident, or maybe they come to us, maybe their spouse was a primary driver and they passed away. And now we have the spouse who's like, well, I think I could drive, but they're nervous about it. But, so I mean, there are cases certainly where I just had worked with a woman actually who hasn't driven in 5 years. She's in her late 60s, had major surgery, and then had a stroke at the same time. And she's like, my doctor keeps asking me if I'm getting back to driving. So I figured I should come and see. And so we'll work together a couple of times, and she just needs the confidence and kind of the retraining, and her brain's a little different now. So that's a piece of it. But yes, our goal is to help people continue to drive for as long as possible. And so even a lot of the older adults that come to us that do have maybe a mild cognitive impairment, we may recommend restrictions and then come back and see us in a year. We want to keep people active and independent as long as it's safe.
Right. Are you able to speak to a contact on this car fit?
You could contact me.
Okay.
I would be happy to be a contact for that. And I can get you guys my information.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So if you're working with a caregiver who may or may not live with somebody who has some dementias, and you're working with them on, how they can work with their family member, I just want to know what happens if it ends up after your visits that you see that this person needs more care, like an assisted living facility, an independent living facility, maybe with some assistance. Do you provide that counseling or do you refer them to someone who would provide that counseling to move them in that direction?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we certainly see ourselves as a piece of this network. And so, even in terms of the driving, we do refer back and forth a lot to Kent Matthews. And so a lot of programs within the AAA. I do see a big role for us helping families decide, because a lot of families come and say, well, I don't know when it's time for dad to move to a facility. And I feel like we can, being in the home, give them some really concrete information. And a lot of families call us kind of when they're in crisis. So it would be great if they called a little earlier when there's still more room to work with. So sometimes that is kind of needs to happen sooner than later. We would counsel around that and set them up with resources, but we would not be the ones to help them choose an assisted living or independent living facility, but certainly making sure that people have resources and support for that.
I would think your program is a lot less anxiety provoking to begin with for that caregiver and for that person that they're caring for. And then you get to know them, and maybe that helps ease them in to thinking about whether they need further assistance or a more formal assistance.
Yeah, and I'm sure, as you're aware, that line is going to be different for every family, like
Absolutely.
What they can handle at home and when it is time. So I think if we can form that relationship and talk about, like, this is what it would take, and then help them.
I mean, a lot of times it's a social worker's role when they're working with a family through case management or whatever, but that person might not be assisting them. The case manager might not be assisting them in actually looking at ways to deal with their dementia or deal with the caregiver trying to change the way in which they're doing. So I think that sounds like it's a I don't know if you're working with social workers in other agencies around those kinds of things.
A little bit. I mean, we are just starting this program, so we would love to do more of that. And I feel like the one thing like that can be really helpful is a lot of case managers and social workers, and we're getting calls from even medical social workers at doctors' offices. They're not in the client's home. And I feel like we get a lot of information by that piece. And so the more we can collaborate, the better.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Mary?
Bringing up a point, at the beginning, you said that you have 3 offices in Fort Collins, Westminster, and in Colorado Springs, but you want to apply to spread out through the county of El Paso County. What about the other 2 counties in our tri-county area? Are you bringing staff on like a part-time to Colorado Springs? Like, so there'd be certain days of the week that there would be some people from your agency in Colorado Springs? And if that's the case, would you be able to also apply that to the other counties? Like half a day every 2 weeks or something, so that there is representation throughout the tri-county area?
That's a great question. So in terms of the driving program we do from our Colorado Springs office location. So that one, I mean, we get people from as far away as Durango or Trinidad. So we definitely, they have to get to us is the tricky part. And maybe you guys can help with that sometimes.
They have to get to you.
For driving, they have to get to us because of the equipment that's involved and the vehicle. And honestly, the driving routes, it's hard if we don't know where we are to be assessing somebody. So the benefit of that is family is usually involved and we really want them to be involved. So it's often a family member, but people come to us by Uber or Pace vehicle or Goodwill or, so people get transportation as needed. So that one to me is not as much of a service area question, but certainly in terms of going to clients' homes, that's a really great question. So far, we can occasionally get funding through Medicare. So that's kind of where we've been going with this so far. And that doesn't cover any travel or anything like that. So we have limited to Colorado Springs specifically. But that's a really good point for me to think about in the grant application, because I honestly think that would be the only barrier to us traveling is the cost to have a therapist drive out to the other counties.
Yeah,
So.
or even Fountain or Calhoun or other outlying towns in El Paso County.
Yes, yes.
It's a big area to cover, Terry, and I'm just interested in what your plans are to do that, to branch out to the entire Triple County area.
Yeah, so right now we have one therapist who's kind of dedicated to that Skills to Care, who's certified in the Skills to Care program, and it's not that busy right now, so she has other work, but this is her passion. So she would love to have more.
And that's you, isn't it? Is that
There's
you?
another.
Oh, there is another.
Yeah. Yes, her name's Christy, and she's fantastic. So those are great things to bring up, and things that are probably good for me to think about in looking for funding.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Maria, you had a question?
Yeah, so for the Fitness to Drive program, I may have missed it, but is that only for seniors? Because I'm working with somebody who's not a senior, and she is interested in doing adaptive driving. And so I was wondering if she could also be a part of that program.
Yes, certainly. So we work with teens all the way up through people in their 90s. And so certainly we would be happy to talk to her or talk to you or however that works.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Jody?
Yeah, I always like to share that when I was with the senior center and families would come in and say, we don't know what to do. We think we need to take mom or dad's keys. We would refer them to Terry's program when she was at the hospital. She was previously at Penrose, and I believe she might have mentioned that. And so, there's a great value to having a third party in those conversations because it is a difficult program. And then when I was with the Alzheimer's Association, that was, Terry talked and touched on her on the dementia specific, target to services. That's huge because that family has so many areas of concerns. And obviously driving is a big part of that because the individual may not recognize that they're no longer a safe driver. And so I remember one of the folks that I had, the families that I had referred to her the dementia, the person with dementia was the driver, and the spouse who was not comfortable in driving did all the navigating. And, you know, when they came to talk to me and they were telling me this, like, oh, I got to get Terry on this, you know. so their services is unique in that they can be that middle ground, that person, that organization to really show what those needs are. Some of the stories she's told me in the past have been really eye openers for the family members and for the individual who is doing the driving test with her staff, and come to the realization that no, maybe just my home to church is all I can do anymore, and realize that they can't really truly navigate the city anymore. So yeah, thank you for presenting today, Terry.
Thanks, Jody. Fun to talk to you guys. I love talking about this stuff. So thank you.
We're excited about it. So looking forward to seeing your application. That'll be wonderful.
Your
Great.
contact information.
So my email is here in the chat. I think I just sent it to Melissa, not everybody though.
No, I do have, I've got the email. I don't have
Okay,
anything else.
and then I can give you our phone number if you want. It's 719-231-6657. Healthpromotionpartners.com too has a lot of information.
Wonderful.
Can it be included in the minutes, the specific information, like when we get copies of the minutes, so that we'll have that right there?
Melissa will do that for us.
Okay,
I see your
thank
head
you.
shaking, yes. So that's great. Well, thank you to our three presenters today. It's exciting to hear from potential providers for the AAA, and we'll look forward to seeing your applications and working with you in the future. So that sounds great, wonderful. I see how these new providers are helping fill in certain little gaps here and there that will be wonderful to have. Okay, now Jody, was your presentation complete, or did you have anything else?
Yeah, thank you. I did pause for a moment there since she was able to join us. Just so you all know, the state completed their state program assessment with us last week, and almost 2 weeks ago now. It got rescheduled due to the Marshall fires, and then ultimately because of the snow we had a couple of weeks ago. So big kudos to Melody for keeping all of that going and on schedule. And so we're finishing up the last bit of information, and so we'll have our final report probably in the next few weeks. So we will share that. I see a thumbs up from Melody. Yay. So we should have our final report from the state here in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would expect. So we'll share if there's anything needed to be shared. So thank you. That was it.
And Jody, could I ask with you and Melody, do you guys need any more help stuffing envelopes to get the stuff out, or has that all been done? Because we were going to pull the rack in if that was needed. And so do you guys need any more help, or is that all done?
We do. Thank you for asking, Melissa. So we were planning to do some stuffing this week, but then with the weather, things kind of went sideways. So next week would be great. And if people want to come in together as a group, we can get you set up in the main conference room. Melissa, loved that suggestion from you. So we have about 800 left to stuff. So it would be great to have that help. If you want to determine a day, I can plan to be in there and provide instructions and visit with you all.
Great. We'll follow up on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. And thank you, everyone.
And for those these are surveys that are sent out every year to the various clients. And we would be helping stuff envelopes and get them in the mail, that type of
Yes,
thing.
Right,
so
this
there,
is-
thanks, Dee. Oh, yeah, so it's part of our State Unit on Aging contract that we survey our program participants annually. And so that includes our internal programs and then all of our contracted providers. So we're surveying about 4,800 people this year. And fortunately, we have great providers who are helping us with that. So we coordinate all of the envelope printing. They send those out. The ones that we'll be stuffing are for our internal programs.
Okay, great. So we'll look forward to an email from Melissa letting us know a date and a time and a place. And see who can participate. If the weather cooperates, right? Okay. Then in terms of my report, I think I'll Melissa and Jody and let's see. Debbie and I visited the new Greshio apartments a couple weeks back, I guess it was. I've sort of lost track of time. That was exciting because it's part of the effort to produce affordable housing for seniors. And so they built a new apartment building and we were able to visit that. I thought it was very, there were two parts that were great. Number one, it was a lovely place to live because it had, you know, areas where the residents could gather. It had an exercise room. They had washer dryers in the apartments, etc. One of the interesting things about that, as I described the apartments to some of my friends, they sort of just said, well, all new apartments have those things. And I thought sometimes you just have to step back and realize affordable housing doesn't have those things. You know, most people who live in affordable apartments, affordable housing apartments, do not have all those amenities that everybody else around us just sort of thinks are just normal. So that was
like a dishwasher, Those apartments had dishwashers.
That's right. They had dishwashers, right. I mean, so it makes you step back when you share information with your friends, you realize, oh, wait a second, you know, all these wonderful amenities that are in these new apartments are not the norm for most affordable housing. So that was one takeaway I had from that. The other takeaway that I was very happy to see is that the community outreach person reached out to us and had us come visit. And therefore, we had a lovely conversation about resources in the community for all these seniors. So he was really wanting to connect the residents to all the resources in the community. And, you know, Jody and Melissa were there and Debbie and I, and we could all bring up ideas about what resources were available. So did anybody, Jody or Melissa or Debbie, anybody want to add something to something you gleaned from that visit?
Yeah, thank you. That was one thing I leaned over to Melissa at one point and said, you know, this feels like we're walking through a high-end retirement community. It was very impressive. It's 54 apartments, so it's not enormous. It is the one thing that I can't remember who asked. It is not on a bus. It is not on a bus line. Yeah, thank you, Debbie. Yeah, it's not on a bus line. But you know, our goal in meeting with them was not just to see this location and to see the amenities. It is not a traditional low income or affordable housing environment, like Bea and Debbie described, washer and dryer right there in every apartment, full kitchen amenities, for all intents and purposes, everything they need can be found right there. Some people who reside there do have vehicles, some do not. But the big part of our conversation that day and ongoing, because it is still an ongoing conversation with the folks at Grescio, is around connecting those residents with services in the community. And so they're going to be hosting a resource fair for their residents, so they can be introduced to service providers across the region. AAA, we will be there as well. And so, it's the thing to consider is this is not a living situation where everything is provided. It is much. He even described Will, who is the gentleman who gave us the tour, described the amazement by some of the folks coming in that they've never had an apartment or a living situation that had a washer and dryer in it. Much to B's point is sometimes we take these things for granted, and so many people have moved in there. This is so much nicer than anywhere that they've lived. But little computer lab, little health area that will be set apart for appointments. The exercise room, there was a lady, we interrupted her midday exercising, but she was gracious and greeted us. But then also some community rooms, and I think that's something that could be really a challenge in low income or affordable housing, is that inability to have or to create community. You may live in the same building, but how do you create community amongst yourselves? And the fact that they considered that, and there's at least two different spaces, maybe more, for events and potlucks and puzzles and things like that. It's just, I think Grescio went above and beyond what might have been expected in a senior affordable housing situation. So just a huge shout out to them, a huge thank you for creating that space. And it is full. The last space was filled just a few days after our visit. So if you have the opportunity or you would like to volunteer on that particular day of the resource fair, get in touch with Melissa. Melissa typically heads those kind of things up. Yes. Melissa typically heads up those kind of outreach opportunities. And so get with her and plan to spend. It's not like an entire day because they only have the 54 residents, but it would be a great opportunity for you to see what is possible when an organization really commits themselves to that type of situation. So yeah, thank you, B.
They had a beautiful open rooftop area too, which it was cold. There was snow on it when we were there, but that'll be really nice. I think the key will, I'm sure those people will be in those apartments for many, many years, 10 years, 12 years, so the key is what will happen as they age and need other kinds of support and services. So that'll be interesting. Because I think, was the age 55 or was it 60? 60 maybe?
62.
62, okay.
And the prices do vary based on the area mean income, as well as other factors. So there are varying levels, not really a sliding scale per se, but there are varying levels of income requirements and capabilities for pay.
Mary?
Yeah, I had a question, and am I muted still?
No, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. That was my question. One thing I wanted to say was I wasn't able to join you, but I did a virtual tour on the internet. So I saw most of what you saw. And I'll tell you, I guess I'm just totally out of the loop and still working on it. when I saw what they were charging for the apartments, I thought, my God, this isn't low income, is it? Is it? The prices that they're wanting seem really high to me.
Well, I guess that's something that, you know, is part of perspective, but it is fair in that it's, there are actually multiple levels of income allowances and then payment expected on those. And so they're identical. There are studio, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom locations, but then each of those has a different price range depending on income and area median income guidance and requirements. So
they don't require that you sell everything you own and give it to them.
Oh, no, that's not part of the discussion. No. Like I said, you know, that there are 54 residents, and while there's not a 54 car parking lot, it was a full parking lot. A lot of those residents do have vehicles, and they have you know, they have to go through the appropriate guidelines to show income, because it is ultimately income based, but it's multi-tiered to accommodate as many people as possible.
And just generally, is that what I can expect as I look at other areas of low income housing? Is that pretty much the norm, how that works?
I don't think to the extent that Grescio has built in. Like I said, there's so many things around this particular complex that they've done to accommodate as many situations as possible, while still making it a realistic living environment. Someone asked here, it's called the Atrium. It's on Austin Bluffs and Templeton Gap.
And that was where I toured on the computer too.
Yes, yeah. So that is their only older adult complex like this right now, and they are looking at expanding that. In fact, the Commission on Aging has authorized us to submit a letter of support for some funding that around tax benefits that they are seeking right now, so that they can build another. So.
And then down in the Fountain area is the villas at Mesa Ridge.
Right. They're in the process.
So exactly kind of the same concept, you know, in terms of, you know, how they vet the older adults that move in there and what the expectation is to pay for the rent. But I will, yeah.
I could make a contact with them and ask some questions.
Oh my gosh, they will.
And then maybe report back if you want that.
Yeah, I will get you connected with them, Mary. They would love to talk to you. They just had their ribbon cutting last week. And of course, you know, Silver Key's on, they're in the process of doing a similar applying for funding for similar projects. But I will say that there is still a need for those older adults who are living on between $600 and $900 a month.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking.
Are folks that are a gap, that don't have access to, they do not have enough money to even meet the minimum standard for those affordable housing complexes. So they're still out there, and it's still a struggle to meet their needs.
There's people out there that aren't going to care if they get a washer and dryer, if they just get a roof and a bed, and yeah.
Good. Well, that's really the issue that I wanted to bring up in my chair's report, was just that visit, because I thought, I mean, the issue of affordable housing is a major one here in our communities, and at least it's one solution that's out there, and it's very promising. Even I thought of the director, his title was Community Impact Director. And I love that word impact as part of his title. It really makes him, you know, have to be action oriented. So anyway, if you get a chance to visit, I think you would really enjoy seeing it. Are there any other discussion items that one of the members wants to bring up?
I thought I was looking carefully at all my email, but I never got the agenda or the minutes from the last meeting.
If you
And
look
I'm-
in your if you look in your invite that comes through that gives you this this Zoom link, if you
Right.
scroll down a little bit further, there's another link where you get this entire package of
Oh,
minutes
it's
from the last meeting.
Okay,
And it's
I was,
a link just like this one, yeah, just a little bit further down.
I did
Everything's there.
overlook it. I was looking for an attachment. Thank you, Jody.
There you go. You're welcome. And do be sure to not look before 7 days out from the meeting, because the invite is a recurring invite, but the actual package of information gets updated within 7 days of the meeting.
Okay, that I kept seeing the same one and I thought, I already looked at that. I already looked at that.
Right. I did the same thing this month, Mary, so, and I should know better, but.
Okay, great.
And
And
I needed a reminder to don't go online until 7 days before.
okay, that's great.
And
And I don't know how to put on my block, my picture that I represent El Paso County. It said, update your name and who are you with? And I looked through the instructions on that, but then when I turned it on to do that, I couldn't find those particular instructions.
Well, and one of the things you can do, Mary, is up in the corner of your video that you have there, there are 3 little dots, and you can go there and you can rename your name. So you can do it there.
Okay,
It
so I thought,
should ask you when you log in, what is your name? But because I launch the meetings, I don't always see that. So, and I can also rename you next time.
and it
if
said you
want me
could
to
do it
that.
under participants. Was that a possibility to do it there? It said it would list the participants and then you could choose your own. But I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have the same question. It doesn't have my first name, it just has D. So I need to have it say Debbie. And my full last name is Levin with L dash. And then the Stankiewicz part is capitalized as well. It's a hyphenated name. I do
So
go
we'll
by
get
all
with-
of them.
Melissa,
We'll get
can
with
you
each
help?
of you and show you how to, you can either do that on your end from your computer, or we can do that once the meeting starts. We can temporarily update it for the meeting. It'll have to be done each time. So
Yeah,
we can take care of that offline. So
Yeah, I don't see the 3 dots, so.
I didn't
Yeah,
see 3
Can you
dots
put
either.
your cursor over your self, over your own screen, up in the right-hand
Oh,
corner?
there. Okay, I got it. Debbie, do you see
Put
it?
the cursor there first,
Got
and
it.
then you'll see it. Okay?
Mhm.
Okay, well, we'll work on that offline, but.
Okay.
Our next meeting is March 24th. It's always the 4th Thursday at 10 a.m. Just, you might want to put it on your recurring calendar. And for our committee chairs, we have our executive committee and our officers. We have our executive committee meeting. We've moved it to the first Wednesday at 1 o'clock via Zoom. We don't get together in person. So may I?
And B, I have 2
One
things
other
to add.
announcement, okay.
Yeah. So on March 6th, we are hosting a table at a vaccine outreach clinic that's happening at the library down on the southeast side of town. We'll be there from 11 in the morning until 7 at night, although I don't foresee that we'll be there till 7 o'clock at night. It is for primarily Spanish speaking folks to come and get their vaccines. And so if anybody wants to join me on that, let me know. And then the other thing that I wanted to share is that we're doing our Medicare Lunch and Learns, and we're actually doing kind of a co-sponsorship with the Security Public Library. And I actually wanted to follow up with you, Mary, about that. So you'll probably hear from me.
Okay.
But know that there are, and even though it's a partnership with the Security Public Library, anybody can attend it because it's a webinar. And so if you're interested in those, a flyer for that, I think I'll just go ahead and forward it out to the RAC anyway, just to get it out, and you can have it. And so I wanted to mention those two things.
Yeah, it's been in the Fountain Valley News, so.
Oh, great. Good. Thanks for letting us know that.
Any other announcements? If not, thank you very much for attending the RAC meeting today. I will adjourn the meeting.
You got a couple people questioning there.
Oh, we got a couple hands up. Okay, Jenny?
Oh, let me get rid of mine.
Oh, I just wanted to mention real quick while we were talking about events. On March 17th, the Park County Senior Coalition will be hosting, it's also called a Lunch and Learn, and it will be St. Patrick's Day themed food. And at this event, we're going to have UC Health present to do Stop the Bleed from their trauma department. And they also are going to show folks how to do hands-only CPR. And then we also will have two departments from Park County government there. We'll have the Department of Human Services, and we'll have public health as well for question and answers. Just open kind of science fair table setup style. And we are hoping to put our next freezer. We got CARES Act funding to do this freezer project throughout Park County. And we are hoping to put our next freezer in Lake George and have frozen meals available there. And so it'd be lovely if any of you could come. We would love to have you there and sort of do an unveiling open house with the freezer project.
Cool.
So it's at the Lake George.
Exciting.
Yeah, so it's at the Lake George Community Center at 11 a.m. on March 17th.
Wonderful. Any other announcements?
I just wanted to say real quick, with the Independence Center, I am able to travel up into Park County, Teller County, and throughout El Paso County. I can also visit people in their homes if it's needed, and we help people with all disabilities, all ages. We create SMART goals. So if you know of anybody, I put my information in the chat. Give me a call and we'll see how we can help them.
Wonderful. Glad to hear that.
Do you work with the deaf?
Yes, we do. We have a deaf specialist named Chelsea Elstad. And so if somebody in any of those counties needs assistance, I will get in touch with Chelsea. And then we also have an interpreter on staff, Naomi. She is an ASL interpreter. So for communication purposes, we can get them linked up.
Terrific. Thanks, Maria.
Wonderful. Anything else? Okay, I'll try it again.
We're just a chatty bunch.
We are, but that's great. I'm glad. I'm glad. Okay, I'm going to adjourn the meeting of the RAC and we'll see you in a month. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.